Career management is the combination of structured planning and the active management choice of one's own professional career. Ever wondered how a few people scale up the corporate ladder and become CXOs within a short span, maybe less than a decade? And do you know what it really takes to accelerate your career journey? Hello. Hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts or leaders or coaches or academicians across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and with my co-host Sudhakar. So folks, today we are going to discuss a topic: how to get 5 years ahead in your career with just 6 months of work. And we are pleased to welcome Ben to our show.
Hello, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Ben Preston's career past wasn't a solid line. He moved from billion-dollar conglomerates to non-profits to startups, looking for the meaning in what the right role was for him. In this journey, what he discovered along the way are the game-changing questions that could cut down years of wrong jobs. Ben now consults with young professionals and businesses on career strengthening strategies, and his new book, Harness Your Butterflies, cuts the guessing game out of finding the meaningful career, whether you are just starting out or pivoting mid-career. He speaks to Gen Z and millennials about why the traditional path to a great career just doesn't work any longer, why your passions should be your guiding compass, and how to stack success around you. Ben, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think I jumped in early, but it's great to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Excellent. Ben, we know a bit about you. Can you please share your journey of becoming an author?
Yeah, so I always liked writing. I didn't think I was going to be a published author, but I started my career out, I feel like a lot of people do, where you either would attend a university or you kind of have like your direction and you're like, you know what, this is going to make me a lot of money. So I started out going to university, ended up getting a degree in communications and public relations, thought I was going to be a big advertising guy, started my career out in communications, and then found out didn't really love it, moved into marketing. And then kind of along the way, I found that I was more interested in kind of like how organizations function from a strategic level, or how they make decisions, or how they're reaching their customers. And on the other side, how people are sculpting their careers around that idea. And so from there, I kind of was like looking at the landscape, and I always had the advice in my family always told me, or my mom especially, would always be like, follow your passion, do what you love, follow your passion, do what you love. And I'm like, as I was going along my career, I was like, I'm figuring out how to do that, but no one's teaching you how. And so that to me, I was like, someone needs to be writing this down. So that was kind of my approach, was like, let me just take what I've learned and write down sort of the things that I've learned along the way, and incorporate a lot of the research and psychology that goes in with career success and fulfillment. Because I think there was kind of a missing gap there, but that was kind of my long way around to getting to being an author.
Wow, mother's simple suggestion of follow your passion and do what you love to harness your butterflies. Amazing, Ben. Ben, in your journey with conglomerates, startups, not-for-profits and blah, 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 what are some of the myths about career planning that you came across?
The biggest myth is that people think that it's linear. So a lot of organizations, when you start, they assume that, and this is one of the things where they call them career ladders, or each organization kind of calls it a different name, where they assume, and I'm just going to use the frame of a ladder. If they say like a career ladder, let's say for marketing, that you would start out as a marketing associate, and then you would go to marketing manager, and then you'd go to marketing director, and then you'd go to vice president, and then you kind of work your way up that way. Very rarely is that how people develop their careers. And the more that I start working with individual clients or like people that I do career coaching with, they have this mentality of where they start down one path and then they go, I'm totally not satisfied. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my career. And to me, that language of the rest of my career is one of the most dangerous phrases in career planning. I always look at career planning, and we can talk about this more later too, but I always view career planning as it's more of like just kind of, it's if you had like a metal detector on a beach, like that to me is more what it is. It's kind of like you scan around until you find the thing that you want to find, and then you move toward that direction. And it's a constant evolution of that mentality. But I think that's the biggest myth about career planning, is that it's linear, because it never works that way as much as you want it to.
In fact, I resonate with you. During my early stage in the career, I used to think everything is linear, kind of somebody is going to scale up the ladder, and also thank you for sharing that insight. Hey, Ben, here comes the main topic around our conversation today. How to get 5 years ahead in someone's career with just 6 months of work. I'm really curious.
Yeah. So there's no secret trick to it. It's literally just this mentality of always focus on what you want and move toward that direction, which sounds a lot simpler than it is. But the idea is a lot of people spend an entire career, and I will say they spend years doing stuff that they don't like doing, assuming that someday that will pay off. And what I will say is most of the time it doesn't. Like you will spend, and I've done this too, where I spent 5 years of my career realizing that the stuff that I really didn't like doing wasn't going to get better, and it was just going to keep piling on with stuff that I didn't like doing. And the thing that I thought was really interesting is, and the thing that people I think should be taking early, is this note of, if there's something, and I'm not talking about the tactical stuff, because the tactical stuff will change over the years. I'm talking about like the core of your job. If you go into a job thinking logically and saying, I have, let's say, student debt, and I need to take a job and pay for this, this, and this. And so you attach the logical component and then the emotional component, which is this idea of, I need to find fulfillment, I need to find passion, I need to find purpose. If you don't feel purposeful in your job today, you're not going to feel it 5 years down the road. So that's kind of the change you make now. But the timing of it is, if you look at what you want to accomplish and you play to your strengths and you say, these are the things that I'm passionate about, it doesn't even need to be something where it's like your passion, the big capital P passion. But if it's something that you're passionate about or purposeful about, if you even work on that for 6 months, you're going to put yourself so much further ahead. Like for me, I wrote a book in 3 months. And to me, I've already found that my career has totally changed course in that period of time, where theoretically it would have taken me 15 years to figure out that the path that I was going down wasn't something that I wanted to go down. And the main reason is people look at it logically and they say, I'm just going to follow, because we're all conditioned to kind of expect to work hard now and get dividends later, when really it's like, you can make your career purposeful today and not waste 5 years of your career when you can be doing what you love right now and figuring out how to make it purposeful right now.
That's amazing. So if you are working on something that you're passionate about for 6 months, it will take you a long way. And one other key takeaway for me is, don't bark up the wrong tree, like thinking that results will follow automatically, because ideally the stuff that you are not interested in, they may not result you anything fruitful. Thank you for sharing those amazing insights. Ben, you now started coaching these millennials, Gen Zs and all. So I want you to go back in time and explain how the career planning was different for baby boomers versus Gen X versus millennials versus the so-called Gen Zers or the centennials. Any insights on that?
Yes. So I'm from Nebraska. We have a lot of buffets, like where you have food kind of like laid out and you can just eat whatever. Like sometimes they'll have like pizza and they'll have salads and they'll have all these different things. The thing that I think is so fascinating about careers, and this will continue to happen for the rest of time, is the diversity of which the career sets or the types of jobs that you can have will always be growing. They will always be diversifying, and you'll always have more options. So when you look at like the baby boomers or the earlier generations, when they show up to the buffet, they only have 3 types of pizzas to choose from. Now a millennial or a Gen Z goes to the buffet and they have 30 types of pizzas to choose from. So it's like, it's a lot more overwhelming, the number of choices that you have, but at the same time, it's also more empowering because you can look at it and say, I am not only limited, and I will use my grandparents as an example for this. My grandpa had very limited job opportunities, and he ended up being a carpet layer, and that's what he did for his entire career, because that's what he did, and that's what he, like, the fulfillment that he got came from being able to provide for his family. And now people are defining purpose and passion and almost like fulfillment in a very different way, where it's, you don't just have to make money, you can make money and have fun. You can make money and be energized. You can make money and have transformation when you're actually working with people and getting them excited about what they, their career journeys and their path forward. But yeah, so that's the biggest change, I think, is the number of options and just the way that we go about selecting our career path and the way that we go about developing our career path is we just have so many more options that when you show up to the buffet, you have to be very intentional. Like going back to what we talked about before, you need to be very intentional about saying, I'm not going to sit here and try all 30 pieces of pizza because I want just the one piece. And so you go toward that direction and you can make a really, really big impact in that space.
Excellent. So Ben, couple of things that will stay with me for long. Career ladder is not linear, so evolve and pivot. Second, just because you have so many options, don't just waste your time in trying out anything and everything. And another funny part is you talked about Nebraska. Immediately, the character Penny from the Big Bang Theory actually came to my mind that, she is from Nebraska.
That show's so funny to me when Penny, because her character is from Omaha, which is where I'm from. But then when she's like writing the script, she's like, yeah, this person from Lincoln, and they're very similar. So just the idea of like her trying to expand her range by changing everything about her and making it a different city, to me is really funny. But yeah, I relate to her very a lot.
Absolutely. So Ben, what are the common mistakes that people make during their career planning? We agreed that it is not linear, so you need to evolve and pivot. That is a golden rule. But typically, what are the things that people do?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk very practically or very tangibly, because I think that that's going to be really helpful. So we talked about this idea of career planning it's like you kind of have to find your way around, but when you're in that space of not knowing what you're if you don't know the direction that you want to go, which is something that I hear a lot, clients I'm like, yeah, just you follow what you want to do, follow your passions, do what you want to do. And people are like, I don't know what I want to do. So to me, the very first step is figuring out what are you good at. And I always tell people to find their strengths. And I kind of label it in a broad way, but you have to find your strengths and the things that you're good at, for the sole reason that if you look at the very successful people in business today, none of them are known for what they're bad at. In fact, anybody that you can name that's really, really successful, no one ever says they're successful because they're bad at this. You're not, if you are really good at something, like Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, the people who we look at and say, these are really, really successful people, you look at them and you say, those are the people that are really good at what they do, or they're really good at leveraging their strengths. So in order to find your strengths, I'm going to go over this really quickly, and if we want to touch base on it later, we can. There's 3 kind of different ways that you can do that. The first way is reaching out to friends and coworkers and saying, or friends and coworkers or family members or old professors, and just sending them an email, sending them a text saying, hey, I'm working on my strengths. Can you give me a list of things that I'm good at? And what you'll find is those people will usually shed light on the things that you didn't know that you were good at in a more professional setting. The second thing that you can do is take a formal psychology assessment or formal strengths assessment. I always recommend Clifton Strengths, which is owned by Gallup now, but basically you take it, there's a list of 36 different strengths. They'll give you your top 5, and then they'll tell you, you're really good at, for me, I'm winning others over, strategic, positivity. And so if I can use those different strengths when I'm working with people, so let's say if we were on a working team together, if one of my top strengths was winning others over, if we had an idea that we wanted to present, I would be able to use my strength by making sure that everyone had their input and then getting everyone on the same page before we move forward with the project. There's that type of stuff. And then the third thing is making a personal inventory, let's say a list of 50 things that you can write down and say, I'm good at this for me. And usually those don't have to be professionally focused, but for me, so I don't know if you can see, I have a ton of houseplants. I love gardening. I love houseplants. I love kind of growing things. And so when I was writing those down, you go through your list, you write down, let's say 50 things, you go through and highlight the top 5 or 10 things that when you think about them, they make you excited. And that's the key, is you think about stuff that makes you excited. And so for me, the ability to kind of grow things, to nurture things, to watch them grow, I immediately can translate that into my job of working with my clients and saying, I like watching you guys grow. You guys do it on your own. But then if you need me, let's say, to water or to provide insight or to provide info or research or whatever, I can do that. But your job is to kind of do your own thing. So with all three of those things, it kind of gives you a good direction or a good starting place, a foundation where you can start your career planning. Because if you start from where your strengths are, then it'll be a lot easier for you to kind of sift and sort and figure out what you want to do in the long run. And those are kind of practical things that you can do today to start your career planning.
Amazing. Actually, the exercise that you talked about, listing out the strengths, it reminded me of two of the sessions that I have been part of in my professional career. One was for thought leadership workshop and another one was for situational leadership workshop. Yeah, it definitely gives you a different perspective, one introspection, and also I really liked the point you touched upon, Ben, about that outside in perspective, like, hey, socialize it in your close circle from both professional and personal lives and get that validated. It definitely gives us that compass to be in the right direction. And you talked about pivoting, right? Amazing.
Yeah, it opens up your narrative too. So everybody is like, when you're talking, and let's say if I were to say, what are your strengths? And you just listed, let's say 10 strengths to me right now, we could pull in somebody that you know and say, what else would you add to this list? And they would say, I'm going to add this. And it helps you, like what you're talking about, shift your perspective and look at it in a completely different way so that the narrative that you're saying is no longer this big, it's 10 times bigger because you can incorporate what everyone else is saying and you can kind of own those traits. And it makes it a lot more freeing to be able to kind of say, I'm really good at all of these things. And then you get to pick which direction you want to pursue.
Absolutely. And also it gives you the opportunity to paint it on the larger canvas that is available, right?
Yeah,
excellent.
Totally.
So Ben, this has been an amazing conversation. I just want to shift the gears a little bit here and tell you one story. Late 70s and early 80s, when these computers were getting introduced to the world, there was this big noise about computers taking over humans and many jobs getting out of market. And then Mr. James Cameron came in with Terminator, that series, which said that the end of humanity is in near term. Now I think if you see, fast forward for about 40 years from 80, now we are in 21, and now the next phase of this artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation, the virtual reality, augmented reality and whatnot. So with this in that context, what is your opinion about the job market at large and careers in future?
Yes, that's a really good question. I'm gonna take it into two because it kind of depends on your perspective and how you look at it. I'm a very optimistic person, so I will give you the optimist view of what that looks like. But I want to just talk about the objective facts that jobs are going away because of technology. That doesn't mean that people don't have opportunities, and I think that those things oftentimes get confused. So people view it as, let's say, automated vehicles are now going to probably get rid of a lot of like taxi drivers, Ubers, like truck drivers, like let's say in the next 5 years. A lot of those jobs are going away. I would probably argue that a lot of the people that are driving Uber or that are truck drivers, that's not what they want to do for their entire career. And so for me, it's a lot of the stuff that is considered like that isn't super passionate work in general. It's a lot of automated work, a lot of task-based work. And I feel like and this is the optimist part of me. So objectively speaking, those jobs will be at risk and those jobs will most likely go away. So if you look at it from kind of the fear perspective or the scarcity perspective, everyone should be losing their minds because that's a terrifying thought. On the optimistic side, what an opportunity that now we don't have to worry about the mundane stuff that people don't really want to work on anyway. And we have the ability to open up an entire labor force where people can pursue their passions and actually develop the solutions that they want to see. If you look at the path in the past, like even 10 to 20 years, the jobs that exist today, they're like, I work in digital marketing a lot. And the fact that I run a lot of my business and stuff on YouTube and the fact that I'm an author and having even these types of conversations, like this would not have been able to exist 30 years ago or even in the 1970s, 1980s. So to me, there's a whole opportunity or a range of stuff. And the only difference is the people that look at it as this is terrifying are the people who haven't fully embraced their own potential to be able to develop the solutions that they want to see. If you're not ready to be an entrepreneur and start your own business, there's tons of new businesses that are coming out or tons of really successful companies right now that are moving into the digital age that have job openings that you can take. You just need to be in the mindset of saying, I am capable of doing this, and then positioning yourself to actually have one of those careers. So if you're at risk of getting displaced or at risk of losing your job, now is a really good time. Use that fear as a driver to say, okay, I'm going to go and get a certification. I'm going to go learn how to do these other things. I'm going to go back to trade school, whatever that looks like for you, and pivot into something where you're actually taking a step to move with the future, as opposed to just being a rock and just sitting there and being like, I'm scared I'm going to lose my job. It's like, yeah, you probably will, but you also have this opportunity to do these really cool things and make a bigger difference than where you are right now.
Those are wonderful tips and a slight sneak peek into the background and the future. And I think you have rightly said that's an optimistic view. And in fact, I resonate with many of the points, because none of the jobs that were thought of getting obsolete did not get obsolete, but you'll find alternate ways of getting into it. So wonderful conversation so far, Ben. So are you ready to spice up this conversation with a quick rapid fire questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Perfect. So here comes the first bullet. What is one gadget that you cannot live without?
My iPad. And I never thought I would say that, but my iPad, because I feel like it's one of those like rapid fire. Yeah, my iPad.
Wonderful. Yeah, here comes the next one. Speed or perfection, and why?
Speed, because you'll never get perfect and it'll always be changing.
Okay. Here comes the real bullet. What is the weirdest thing that you have ever Googled?
Probably how to build a wood table. It's my newest project, but that's probably the weirdest thing I've ever Googled.
Spot on. All right, here comes the next one. If you can have dinner party with any 4 people in the world, who would be on your invite list other than your family members?
Oprah Winfrey, Lizzo. I love Lizzo. She'd be on the list. Chris Hemsworth, because I think he's hilarious. And James Corden, because you always need somebody to be kind of the entertainer.
Wonderful. So last one for the rapid fire. Which one would you choose, invisibility or super strength?
Super strength, for sure.
Perfect. Spot on. Over to you, Sudhakar.
Thank you, Ben, for that amazing responses for the rapid fire questions. One final question for this session for today, because we would love to have you again for our future episodes. What is your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
I like that question. Don't use the word supposed to as a crutch for not doing what you love. So don't say that you're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to have this job, you're supposed to do this. Don't use that as a crutch for following your passion and following your intuition to do what you love.
Wow, amazing. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. It was indeed great to have you on our show to talk about how to get 5 years ahead in your career with 6 months of work. Couple of things that will stay with me forever. Career ladder is not linear. So always evolve and pivot. Second thing, do not postpone things. When you want to do things, go ahead and do it. And the worst thing can happen is you learn about it. Really appreciate you taking time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was fantastic.
Thank you once again, Ben. Appreciate all the insights shared. And folks, if you have liked this episode, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues for whom you care for. Because the Guiding Voice podcast series is a purely not-for-profit venture, and our team puts in a lot of effort to bring the best conversations to all our listeners. And our purpose is very clear. We want to provide curated guidance to all the professional students out there, be it from engineering, B schools, and all the IT employees and entrepreneurs, so that all of you can make informed decisions based on the insights that are driven by the industry experts, coaches, leaders, or academicians across the globe. Because if you share this with your friends, it helps them also learn great insights from every episode. Or if you're listening to the Guiding Voice podcast on the Apple podcast, please do not forget to leave a review and a 5-star rating, because every rating will help us expand our reach and contribute to our mission to shape the careers and lives of millions of people across the globe. And if you are watching the episode on YouTube, please do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And last but not the least, I want to reiterate, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues. Thank you so much in advance. Alright, so it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about social media apps. So folks, do you know the social media apps like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and Tumblr are all banned in China? In case if you are not aware, it is a fact, because China has its own set of apps with similar functionality. Interesting. isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time. Bye-bye. And we are signing off for today.